Time. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is our first week, or third week, first lecture. This is Design 370, the Advanced Logo Design course. So, tell me how week 2 went. How did you feel the assignments went? Again, it wasn't a whole lot of designing. You had to do well, I take that back. You did have to do the brand book. How did you feel it went? It was okay. Probably worse for you, huh, Lisa, since you weren't feeling good. No one likes doing work when they're not feeling good. I myself came down with something over the week, and it was no fun. So I feel for everyone out there who's got some kind of a cold. Now, as far as difficulty, though, how'd you feel the brand book went? Did you guys feel like it was okay, maybe a little too much? I mean, 8 pages is a lot, but hopefully the lecture and the recording helped out. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for you guys. Let me pull up my notes real quick, and then we'll dive right in. All right, so I've got a fun class set up for us today. We're going to do mostly design, so we're going to be working in our Illustrator program. I do have just a brief lecture to go over, but for the most part, we can just jump right into Illustrator. So the majority of class will be spent doing design. We're going to do logo designs, and I'm going to go over your assignments. And Lisa got a little confused, had some trouble getting the recording to play. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry for the trouble. Let me know next time if it does that, because we want to make sure we can streamline this process. And those of you who are watching from home, if you have any trouble with the links at all, please don't hesitate to let me know. Just technology in general can just be finicky. So we want to make sure that this is as seamless as possible for everyone. All right, well, since you guys are here, those of you who watch from home, who are actually watching these recordings, I like to reward my students. So let's review the daily checkpoints a little bit. Let's talk about what you might need to know this week. There is a section Brand Identity Special. C&G Partners on CBS Sunday Morning News has a YouTube link. And I'm not quite sure how long it is. I don't think it's very long. But the CBSI talks about the logo a little bit in this video, and it talks about how it was inspired and the designs that and what the design represents. So if you look at the CBSI logo, you guys know what I'm talking about? You guys know, I think everyone knows what the CBS logo looks like, but it's in the shape of an eye. And the question is, was it inspired by the Native America designs representing the sun god, looking at the 4 sacred animals? Okay, so we probably have to watch the video to find out. And I'll let you do that at home. The question is a true or false question, but just in case there's any confusion, it should be a pretty straightforward answer. It is false. So we know. Okay, which loan is credit-based? Let's talk about this a little bit. There's, well, I won't dwell on it too much, but there's a whole explanation. It talks about the different loans for students, and one is called Sallie Mae, and this one is the credit-based loan. So you'll probably want to know that for one of the questions on your daily checkpoints. And I forget which one it is. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, I'm not so sure. But Sallie Mae is the answer there that you probably want to read. Now, again, read it and make sure that you understand it, but it's should help clear up any confusion. And then the next question is, as a graduate, when will the interest start on my educational plan loan if I have one? Now, some of you may have these loans, some of you may not, but the answer to this one is 90 days. So as a graduate, you'll have to start paying interest on your loan. In this specific loan, you have 90 days. Okay. Any questions here? All right, if no questions, we're going to move forward. Designing style guidelines for brands and websites. So there's a link for smashingmagazine.com. There's a designing styles guidelines for brands link. The question, though, is always, true or false, do you always include color palettes, but it is not necessary to define what the colors should be used for? Okay, do you want to take a guess at this? What would you think this answer is, true or false? Always include color palettes, but it is not necessary to define what the color should be used for. What do you think? After, I guess we could all call ourselves brand book pros now, designing a style guide and whatnot. Okay, so Lisa says true. The answer is false. You always include the color palettes, meaning in your brand book, you want to remember your CMYK, RGB. You include the swatches that are used in your logo, but you don't have to define, or it doesn't even have to be for the logo. It could just be the company colors, but you don't have to tell them specifically what colors they should be used for. But again, read the link and see, it goes into much more detail as to why, but the answer is false on this one. I know, I thought it was true too. I thought you had to get very specific. I personally would probably say it's true. You want to definitely err on the side of caution and be more detailed and give more explanation. But in this case, for this color, for this specific article, the answer is false. All right, let's try another one. Okay, there's another article. By setting up templates and guidelines for grids, you encourage best practices and promote consistency. True or false? What would you say? True. That's right, Lisa. Excellent. The answer is true. So can you tell me why? Why is this true? First of all, do you use guidelines and templates? You guys at home watching this, have you used those smart guides? Do you have your smart guides turned on in Illustrator? If not, I'll show you how to do that. They are lifesavers. In fact, I gave some commentary or some grading comments when I was grading week 2's work. And the one comment that I was giving most frequently was just make sure that you tighten up your work. Make sure that the columns are in line, you've got objects lined up, everything lines up flush together. And the best way to do this, because if we try to eyeball it, it's not going to be perfect. So the smart guides and the grids and the guidelines are there to help us. We set up templates, or we can set up templates. We haven't done much of that in class. So, but eventually as you continue to move up into the design classes, you'll be working with templates. But you most definitely should get in the habit of setting up yourself some guidelines or having the smart guides turned on. So the answer to this one is true. It definitely encourages and promotes consistency, uniformity. Logo design. Okay, so let's talk about, that concludes the daily checkpoint questions. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay. All right, so I'm talking about logo design. I've kind of broken it down into a 7-step process for us. And I'll go for about 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll probably just start the design process so we can practice these logos. Before I jump into lecture, I didn't want to forget, I need to pull up the class information on the assignment. Let me talk a little bit about week 3, okay? This is going to be an interesting week. It's done a little bit differently than you're probably used to. Let me see here. Do a new share. Doing this PowerPoint. One second. Let me pull up PowerPoint here. There we go. Okay. So week 3's assignment is you're going to be working on your final project, okay, for both week 3 and 4. So the one thing that I like about this week is that you're going to be able to be given the chance to start thinking about your final project, okay? We're not going to wait till week 4 to do it. So please plan ahead for this. Put this out of the way. I've got my screen up. Okay, so you're going to be working on your final project. For this week, you're going to choose one of the clients listed below, and you're going to create and submit 4 rough draft logos. And these rough drafts need to be executed on the computer, okay? So we're not sketching, we're not drawing right now. We're going to do this. I mean, you can sketch for your initial drafts, but then I want to see your rough drafts translated through the computer. So think about everything that we've learned so far in class about color, about typography, symbolism, and also think about what would appeal to the client's target audience. okay? In week 4, you're going to be finalizing the logo, as well as showing how it translates to a variety of uses. So we've got client 1, which is the Laughing Giraffe Children's Boutique, and it gives a little summary about what that boutique's all about, so read it. And then do some research. If this is the client that you're choosing, I want you to do some online research, peruse the internet, use Google, try to find what boutique logos look like, because you'll find that depending on the genre or the industry that you're designing a logo for, they're going to vary very differently. So you're going to have, so a boutique logo will be very different than a retail jewelry store. The client number 2 is a jewelry store. Megan Wren Jewelry is the company. So each logo should have a very distinct look and should be very different from the industry. So again, how many logos are we creating for week 3? Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday. But here's why I'm going over this, okay? So you pick one client, but you have to do 4 versions of that logo, okay? So say my logo was the Laughing Giraffe Children's Boutique. Okay, I'm gonna do 4 versions of that logo, 4 options that company can choose from, okay? So I don't have to do one of each client. I do 1 client and 4 versions. Does that make sense? Does that clear up any gray areas? That's week 3's assignment. For the assessment, let me pull that up. So for the assessment, pull this up and see if I can, okay, let me actually screen share this. Here we go. Okay, so you're going to be working on a design. We're going to kind of pretend here every project is going to involve a presentation. So the point of this assessment is that you need to schedule a 15-minute one-on-one interview session with the portfolio coach, okay, assigned to the course, where you're going to give them a look into your design process. You're going to talk to them about your logos that you're designing. You're going to talk to them about where you anticipate moving your final project toward. This is just getting the creative juices flowing. This is forcing you to plan ahead a little bit. You will be graded. It's a pass or fail on this. You get 50 points if the coach contacts me and says that you've met with them and that you've had the interview, or you get 0 points if you failed to do so. And so I'm bringing this up to your attention because even though it is Monday, you do have all week. This is definitely something that you can't do last minute, okay? So I really encourage you to get this set up. So sometime this week, you need to set up a 15-minute one-on-one interview session with the portfolio coach assigned to the course, where you're going to give them a look into your design process, okay? And you're going to talk to them about your ideas. You're going to talk to them about where you want to take the design, how you plan on getting there. If you have any questions about how to do it, you can ask me or the coach themselves, and they can direct you. But they're going to email me. They'll contact me and say, okay, Lisa has come and we've had our interview. This is what we talked about. And so based on that email, I'll go in and enter your grade. So if you do it earlier in the week, you'll have your grade posted much earlier than Sunday. So I encourage you to do this, please. Not only will you get your 50 points, easy way to get 50 points in class, but also you'll get your grade updated a lot sooner than waiting till Sunday to do it. Okay? Are there questions about this at all? Okay, this is a kind of a big deal, so we need to remember to do that. I'm going to go to the discussion portion of class. The reason why I want to talk about the discussion is because you have to get started on week 3's assignment. How do you know who the coach is? Okay, that's a good question. Apparently there's a portfolio coach assigned to the class. I will send out an email. I'm not sure who it is. So I've never had to, this is kind of like my first time teaching this class in this format. So I'll write it down. I will email you. Lisa, that's a great question. I will email you guys who your contact is. And you know what? Yeah, before I say anything and confuse you all, I will find out for you who it is, and then I'll email you guys. You should hear from me by tomorrow. If I don't hear back from anyone, latest on Wednesday. But if you don't know who it is, I would consider going to our class tutor. She could probably answer that question. And let me go to the announcements. I've got her information posted. Let's see here. Class tutor, here we go, Misty Porch. So her information's right here. If you go there, you could ask her, but I'll contact someone who knows for sure, and I will email you guys, and I'll post an announcement so that you're aware. So stay tuned. Have you had portfolio coaches before in other classes? I'm just curious because this is the first time I've heard we were assigned one, so. Okay, so yeah, me either. So we'll figure it out together. Okay, so this discussion is interesting because we're going to be talking about assignment 3. So you kind of have to already start assignment 3 in order to be able to post. All right, and I'm going to use Amanda, her example right here, because I thought she did an excellent job and she's way ahead of the game. She designed 4 different, these are her rough drafts, I guess. These aren't necessarily the 4 different logos, but she chose the Laughing Giraffe Children's Boutique, okay? And she came up with some concepts. So she talked about how long it took her, how many rough drafts it took her, what font she used. She talked about how she got to this point. She talked about letter marks and word marks, combination marks. She did one of each, and I thought that was really great. So, and then she shared her visual examples. So I want you guys to be brave. She was a brave soul posting first. I think she did a wonderful job and very detailed. I was really impressed with the detail that she went through in the design process. So we all know about the design process. We all know how to research. We know the difference between both letter marks, word marks, and combination marks, even brand marks. So now that we know these things, we're kind of applying them to this assignment. So once you start getting the ideas flowing, you come up with something, go ahead and post it in the discussion and let's talk about it. Now I know that some of you might be hesitant because it's up for peer review, but I posted just a clarification here of what the type of feedback I want to see on these. I don't want you telling someone if the logo sucks or if it's awesome. You can say if it's awesome, but you don't need to tear them down if it's not perfect, because again, these aren't final drafts at all. These are just concepts, okay? And so some of the things that you could talk to them about in your peer commentary could be, which logo option would you choose and why? So if someone posted multiples, like in this case, she posted it looked like 2 or 3 different versions, and you could tell them which one you like best and tell me why. Is it the font? Is it the typography? Use the terminology we're learning about in class. You could also address typography choices. Did they mention the fonts that they used and why? Why do you like the typography? Color swatches they used. You could talk about that, maybe the CMYK colors. You could talk about shades and other color palettes. And then you can ask what techniques they used and which tools they used to achieve this look that they're going for. So there's some options that you can talk to them about. You can also comment on the overall layout or portions of the logo if you have any suggestions maybe, but don't tear them down. This isn't that's a horrible design kind of, that's not where I want it to go. We want to be educated with our responses and really start trying to pull the terminology out that we're learning from. So are there any questions about this discussion? Okay. All right, so hopefully that's clear. Okay, so now let's go to our slides and talk about this logo process for a second. So aside from being large, successful companies like Nike, Pepsi, can you throw any others out there? I'm thinking Apple are pretty large, successful companies. What other companies can you name? Do any come to mind? Reebok. Okay, there you go. Reebok's another one. All these companies have something in common, that the average American consumer can recognize each company's logo without hesitation, right? So if we saw the Reebok logo, we'd know exactly what company that belonged to, or the Nike logo, or even the Pepsi logo. We know automatically. We call that top of mind recognition, that we're able to recognize the company's logo without hesitation. Now, a successful logo is simple and representative of the company that it stands for. So that's why logos are so important. A strong logo takes time, a lot of money, and effort to create from the company's perspective and from the designer's perspective. Designing a small visual representation of an entire company can be a really daunting task. But if the process is done correctly, a logo can be a very effective marketing device. And that's why we put so much emphasis on it. That's why we're dedicating an entire class to logo design. All creative professionals have different workflow systems, and so there's many different paths that can lead to a successful endpoint, but the general sequence of the process is usually the same, and you guys went over the process a little bit last week. Can you name some of the phases of the process? There was overview, there was strategy, right? I think one was, I don't know, can you name any others, Lisa? There was a whole slew of them. The first part of the logo design process, though, involves a discussion with the client. I like to talk about this as far as overview is concerned. You talk about the client, you go over the company's goals, their visual aesthetic, and then this becomes the research and development stage. Yep, overview, exactly. Lisa's naming them off for me. Overview, strategy, ideas, design, and production. Thank you, Lisa. Oh yeah, we can't forget implementation. Excellent. Yep, that's it. So those were the phases that we were talking about. So let's talk about the research and development stage. This is followed by the production of different rough drafts. This is going to be the stage you're going to be talking about in our discussion. We're going to be posting rough drafts for our logo. Last one is refinement, brand identity, the development, using the new logo design. So drawing the logo on the computer is only a really small part of the process. Research and the preparation often takes the majority of the time, and a lot of clients don't realize this. Some designers don't realize this who are going into the industry. Despite the simplicity and the small size of the final product, because a lot of people think, especially my family, I just did a logo design for my family who is opening their business, and they're so funny because they think that they can just open a Word document and make something and that's a logo. So they don't understand why it takes so much time to create one, or why there's so much involved in the process. But designing a logo can be a surprisingly complex process, and especially if you're not familiar with it. So whether it's a client or you're just now being introduced to it as a designer, I want to break down the 7 steps of the process a little bit, because it is very labor intensive, and the majority of the time is spent researching and going over the preparation. Now, most design projects start with signing a contract to safeguard both parties legally. So usually you'll enter into a contract with a client and they'll hire you to do X amount of work, whether it's hourly or just the per project basis. And then you usually enter the contract that the client promises to pay and deliver. Although it's not a glamorous part of the business, it really is a necessary evil that protects everyone who's involved. So it's very important as you move forward, if you plan on working from home or freelancing in any way, you want to be able to protect yourself and be able to get paid, because that's why we're doing this, right? So that we can make a living. And in addition to being an advantage legally, agreements can also help to lay out the timeline for the project and define any specifics such as revision limits, payment deadlines, and deliverables. So that just simply means it's going to lay out what's expected on both ends. So let's talk about the design brief. This is step one. This first step in the creative portion of the logo design process is called the design brief. This is when the designer discusses the project at length with you. Or with the client. Understanding the company's goals for the logo is critical. So as you're doing your assignment 3, I want you to understand the company that you're going to choose or the client that you're going to pick. And I want you to understand what kind of industry it is. What look and flow and design style are you going to use when you're approaching this assignment? It's important to learn where the logo will be used, what scale and in what capacity, though it should never be, you should never, compromise on how you create it. There should never be photography, no pictures, always vector, so it is scalable, no matter how small they plan on using it. And a logo that's going to be used on a billboard might contain more detail than a logo that will be used on letterhead. So it's still important to design a simple logo. Now, the designer should also learn about the company's target audience. This is you. You're needing to learn who is this company targeting. The logo should reflect and attract the correct demographic. Now, when I say demographic, what do I mean by that? Can you tell me? What does it mean when I say demographic? Types of people, absolutely. So are they old? Are they young? If I was a retirement company, I would probably target the elderly, right? If I was a preschool, then I'd probably want to target the young, right? Or the parents. That's probably who I'd want to target. So the logo really needs to reflect and attract the correct demographic. It is also important for you to learn whether the company has already established a visual aesthetic. Does the company already have an idea of what they want? Are we starting from scratch? So if there's an existing color scheme or style established, it's critical to find out whether the client would like to incorporate those characteristics or into the new logo or not. And in some circumstances, a new logo might be a chance to start fresh and create a new brand, a new visual identity, whereas in other circumstances, it might be important to the client that some sort of consistency is maintained, okay? So have you thought any of which client you're going to go with as far as logo designs, Lisa? Haven't picked one yet? Okay, that's fine. And those of you who are watching from home, once you've chosen one, do a little bit of research on that industry, okay? Which brings me to step 2. Okay, once a sufficient amount of general information has been gathered, and you're going to be perusing the internet, using Google, you need to delve deeper into the research stage. Often clients cannot verbalize exactly what they envision for the logo, so it's important for you, the designer, your duty is to coax really important information from the client. Ask relevant strategic questions. This should help the client pass on any information that would be helpful to you. Successful logos can allude to any number of things. So for example, some logos subtly refer to the company's geographic location, or establishing potential themes can benefit you, providing more material to use when you're brainstorming or sketching later on in the process. You could also establish some themes. Themes can be literal at this point. The art is converting them to non-literal representations later on. So you want to make sure that you're using every avenue you can. You're sketching, brainstorming, you're researching, you're establishing themes, maybe you play on words. Try to figure out which way you're going to go with the logo design. It's more of a roadmap before you get on the computer. And in addition to talking directly with the client, then you can often do some cursory market research on the company and its competitors before you talk to the client. So it's important to know the industry. You don't have to be familiar with the jewelry industry to create a jewelry logo, but you do need to know what's out there, what's appealing, what's trending, and what's already been done, because you want to come out and you want to provide something fresh, right? A client's opinion of their own company only tells half the story. So that's why it's important that any good designer will also look them up online and offline to kind of get a sense of the target customer's vision of the company. Now, examining similar companies, you want to identify systems that may lend some insight into the effectiveness of the logo designs, or researching current trends in the industry, like I said before. This can also be a really, really wise play. It's a good move to do that, to know what's trending. Again, you don't have to know the ins and outs of the jewelry industry, but you do need to know the design trends and what's going on, and stylistically speaking, what's been done, because you want to come up with something fresh. You also want to come up with something that sets you above the rest. Are there any questions about step 1 and step 2? Design brief, research. These are all the steps you're going to be going through as you move through the design process. All right. Let's move forward. We'll go through one more step, and then I'll jump into the logo design, and then we'll finish up if we need to. Okay, brainstorming and conceptualization. I've got a picture here, lots of sketches. This is usually where you're going to start out first. In fact, I encourage it. This is by no means, the final, and you should definitely sketch to come up with some concepts, because you can transfer these to the computer later, and you could either trace them or try to recreate them. Now, again, it's important to note that all designers are different. I'm not an artist by any means when it comes to sketching and drawing, but identifying keywords related to the company and being able to convey a message through my logo designs, I am pretty effective at that. So it's important to know that just because you're not a good artist doesn't mean you can't start here. And in fact, I encourage it. Being me, who's only good at drawing stick figures, I'm able to at least sketch out basic concepts of what I think could be effective. So get this into common practice. Be vigilant at making this a habit, because this is a great place to start. It will save you tons of time. And if you can get something on paper, then you save yourself a lot of time in the creative process. These words are only going to be used to inspire possible visual representation of the company, the words that you come up with, keywords that identify the company. As you can see, textile is one of the words that this designer has chosen, and they're trying to come up with little plays on the letter T, or plays on the word, as you can see here. Once ideas begin flowing onto the page in the next form, visual symbols and shapes will begin to also take form, and it'll start making a little bit more sense. Now it's time to begin conceptualizing the theme. So once you have the sketches done, sketching these ideas on paper is really an essential step. I really can't emphasize that enough. This encourages you as a designer to slow down and examine all the possible angles and direction. Also, the different options that you have. So make sure that you try to incorporate this in our first logo design of the class. You want to make sure you get started on the right foot. Are there any questions about step 3? Okay, so the draft production is the next step. So take a look at this. I've got these sketches. So look at the textile one. I'll even enlarge it a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and then this designer took it to the next level and kind of made these different versions of it. So I think that these are really great. Really, really great. So once sufficient time has been spent on research and sketching, the draft production process can actually begin. This is where the digital implementation takes place. So usually This is executed through Adobe Illustrator. And this is the program you're going to be using for your logo designs, okay? And in submitting for your assignment 3, I want you to include the Adobe Illustrator file, okay, the raw file. The reason why we choose Adobe Illustrator is because it's a vector-based drawing program. And at this point, the most successful ideas developed during the sketching phase will actually come to life. They're going to be recreated on the computer, and this is the fun part. They'll begin to come to life with the addition of color and detail, and they're going to be tweaked until they accurately represent the client's wishes, okay, or until they accurately represent your vision. Some logos rely solely on words. And what term do we use for that? When logos rely solely on words or text. Right, we call it word marks. Okay, when they use typography in their logos, you're right, Lisa, when they use typography, it's called word marks. While others, text is just one piece of the puzzle. Regardless, though, it is important to note that choosing the typeface will set the tone for the whole logo, okay? You can even look at these examples here. This designer has used, though they've used different designs, they've used different fonts, and I think that you get a different feel, a different vibe with each one, with each different font used. So I'm not sure which one is your favorite, but my eye directly goes to a certain one, and it's because of the font. All right, so testing each logo option with a different font family can ultimately lead to a more effective final product. So just maybe you've designed the logo itself, but maybe you want to try out some different fonts, play with the typography a little bit, and see where it takes you, because it gives the logo a whole new look when you change up typography. And you don't realize it until you've done it. Okay, well, let's talk about step 5. This is the stepping back. And this is the step that I forget to do myself, because at this point, many designers step away from the project for a brief time. And I don't always do that, but it's very important, and here's why. This break acts as a time of reflection. It gives you as a designer a chance to return to the project with a fresh perspective, new eyes. I don't know about you, but when I'm staring at the computer screen for long periods of time, sometimes hours on end, everything just kind of flows together, and by the end of it, I'm just like, whatever, it's good enough. But this also is a good opportunity to gather feedback from unbiased parties. Yeah, your eyes hurt and you just want it to be over. Sometimes your judgment lacks after a while. You need to be able to reflect and step back, because there have been times when I think, oh, the logo's good enough, and I'll come back and I'm like, no, it's not good at all. I need to do something else. So you just need fresh eyes. You need yourself a break, but also this gives you an opportunity to get some feedback from outside parties, okay? Designing a logo can be very involved, so gaining insight from an extra pair of eyes or two is really beneficial. I ask my husband all the time, what do you think about these logos? And I want to get someone else's perspective on what they see. And asking friends or family can be good. Give them don't just say, is this a good logo? Give them some options to choose from. Which one is effective to you? Which one says textile industry, like this logo here? Which production or which draft says this is textile restyle, okay? And they've given so many different options. You need to be able to pick one. Sometimes it's hard as a designer because we get really attached to our designs and we just love them all, and then we think that they're all going to be so great. But sometimes it helps to have someone, even someone who's not a designer, to take a look at it and say, that one doesn't really, I don't really get what you're doing there, or maybe this one appeals to me more. So it's important to take advantage of this step, okay? So as you're designing your logo for assignment 3, your 4 logos, I want you to create the 4, and then I want you to ask someone, it can be family or a friend or whoever, and ask someone which option they prefer, okay? And let me know in your assignment. I mean, it's not part of the grade, but I'd just be curious that if you've asked someone which version of your logo that they preferred. And then when you come back, when you return to the logo designs, the most effective iterations must be chosen and assembled for presentation. So when you've collected all of your feedback, now's where you start implementing it, okay? So let's talk about client feedback. This is partially part of, well, part 5 was getting outside feedback. Now, step 6 is actually getting the feedback from the client. And this is the part that most designers do dread, because now that a number of options have been created, the most effective choices are presented to the client for consideration. Sometimes the logo options can be delivered contextually to help the client envision how they're going to look on a piece of collateral, or they're usually written description of the product and then some logo options. So at this point, the client should consider the ideas and respond with notes, okay? You're going back and forth. This could be through email or phone conversations, but it's important to have written feedback because you can refer to it later and you don't forget or miss any details. You as the designer can take the client feedback into consideration and make the changes accordingly. Now, what do you do if you've designed these 4 awesome logos for Megan Wren Jewelry, and the client comes back and says, I like number 1, but you prefer number 2 or 3 or 4, and you have a different favorite? What do you do when the client picks one that you don't necessarily like? I know from me, personal experience, yeah, you go with what they want. That's what Lisa says. If they're paying, then hey, it doesn't matter what they want. I did have a client who had some, best way to put it is tacky taste. They just wanted to put a million different things into the logo, and it no longer was simple. It no longer was effective, in my opinion, as a designer. I gave my professional opinion. I said, I think it's best without all these other details. We want to keep it simple, because you're going to go in and work with clients who think they know, but really you're the expert in the field. And so you can give a professional opinion, but in the end, you have to go with what the client wants. Okay. So, but again, you can make you can give some feedback. You can give your professional opinion. And then you can make some changes and offer some options, okay? You can say, well, maybe we can create some kind of a hybrid here between the two, or take some elements that make the one you favor and maybe incorporating into the one they favor. There's different options, but in the end, you probably go with what they want. But often there are many rounds of revisions, so if you create the 4 or you create some options for your client and say, okay, here you go, that's not going to be the final version, and very rarely is it ever. They'll probably pick one and then start tweaking the heck out of it. So there's a lot of rounds of revisions before the client's satisfied with the final product. So in this case, we're going to be practicing. Not only are you going to be creating revisions for the discussion, these are going to be your very rough drafts, so please don't feel like it has to be perfect work. But then you're going to also take it to the portfolio coach, and you're going to have them give some feedback, and then you're going to go take those changes and you're going to apply them, and then you're going to submit them for your assignment. So you're even going to get feedback from me and have an opportunity to make those changes for the final project. So as you can see, you're going to be taking this one logo, and I know you're thinking, oh, it's just one logo, how hard could it be? But there's going to be a lot of feedback, a lot of changes that you're going to need to make. So I just want to prepare you ahead of time that revisions are part of the game, okay? It's normal, and if you don't have a lot of feedback, or if you don't have a lot of changes to make, then maybe the logo really, then you're missing something, okay? Because very rarely do you ever hit the nail on the head perfectly with the first one, okay? There's always room for improvement. And that's one thing that I want you guys to learn in this class is, yeah, you could spend a lot of time and think you did such a great job, and though you might have, I'm here to push you guys to that next level. So I'll always give suggestions to how to take it to the next level. All right. And then lastly, we'll kind of end here before I jump into the logo design, delivery. Okay, so what do you do after you've gone through the millions of revisions, and now it's time to, give the final version to the client. So once the client is actually happy with the logo, you, the designer, are to produce a variety of file types. Okay, I often get asked this question, well, which file types do I submit to the client? Well, it depends on what they need it for, but important file types include an EPS, which is also a vector-based program, but it doesn't take up the space that an Illustrator file does. So an EPS can still be edited, but it's not as large. JPEGs are usually for web only, and possibly TIFF in certain circumstances, but not very rarely will you need a TIFF. And then some clients may also need a black and white version of the final logo. So when you are doing the 4 versions, I'd like you to include a black and white version. That would be really cool to see. That could be your 4th version. If you've created 3 and you think those are pretty strong designs, maybe do a 4th one in black and white or something. But you definitely need a separate simplified version because, like I said, if you're blowing something up on a billboard, you can get as intricate as you want. But when you're printing something as small as a logo that's, a couple centimeters on a business card, you definitely want to make sure that you keep the logo as simple as possible so you don't lose any detail. And a separate simplified version may be needed in situations where the full-size logo is highly detailed and doesn't scale down very well. But I just say err on the side of caution and design something that's as simple as possible. Remember, dumb it down as much as you can go, and then trying to anticipate all the possible needs of the client. So this can be helpful, preventing the need for any corrections and revisions in the future. And you don't want to have to, have them come back to you, and you want to be able to write it off and just say, okay, we're done. Now, when you deliver the final files, it's time to think about employing the logo on marketing materials. The client's probably going to want promotional products. Many times the designer will continue working with the client to create the brand identity system, a whole shebang, by using the new logo on different products, pens, shirts, bags, whatever the client needs at the time. But this is important. Sometimes it can be as simple as business cards, flyers, posters, brochures, things like that. It just depends on what type of company you're working with. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our 10-minute break here. And then when we come back, before we do, I just wanted to show you this visual. So we talked about design research, building the design concepts, feedback and review, and then also the presentation. So were there any questions about these steps at all? They should be pretty self-explanatory. So what I want you to do for these next 10 minutes is I want you to get on to open up Illustrator. I want you to look at assignment 3. I want you to pick a client that you'd want to design for. And then when we come back, go ahead and tell me which one you chose, and I can design some versions for you. You're welcome to take my examples and copy them. That's fine. I would like to see your own creative take, but it's okay if you want to copy what I'm showing you how to do. I feel like that's fine for this assignment. So hopefully that helps make your job a little bit easier. But let's go ahead and take our break here. Before I do, though, I wanted to go back here to this slide. Even though successful logos appear to be very simple visually, the process of creating a logo is quite the opposite. It's very labor intensive, and designing a logo is a really time consuming project with a lot of different phases of development that are required to produce a really powerful final product. So I want you guys to give yourself time this week to create this. This is not something that you can do last minute. There is, like we went over, the 5 phases. We discussed those in depth and how it does take time. So it's a collaborative process where you need to give yourself some time. So please plan ahead. The investment is worth it, I promise you. The process is executed successfully when you go through each phase properly, okay? And it's good to get in the habit of doing this early on, because when you get old like me and you've already been set in your ways, it's really hard to go back and make corrections and to try to set new habits. So whether you're a designer embarking on logo design for the first time, or you want to create a logo of your own, I really hope this helps you understand the 7 fundamental steps to crafting the perfect logo, right? And here are 5 of the, we went over 7, but here are 5 of the brief explanations. Okay, so try to practice that as you're looking at the logo. Go ahead and close the website for a minute, our course homepage, and pick a logo that you would like to practice. And when I come back, I can do that with you. Okay? Are there any questions before we take our break? All right. See you guys in 10 minutes. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to take this time to start creating some different concepts for this logo. I'll show you a little bit about what I've done, and then we'll try to create something similar. I've created different versions like a word mark or combination mark. But I want to show you some simple, sometimes when you think of a logo, you think of the icon and you want something to be catchy, right? But you don't want it to be too complicated. So have you picked a logo, a client that you want to design for? We can do some options. What client stands out to you? Affordable lawn care, okay. So let's look at an option over here. I've done this one. Affordable lawn care. It could be as simple as the name of the company with a graphic of the grass or some bushes or even a tree if you'd like. So I'm going to use this logo as an example, okay? There's different ways that you can go about creating the grass, but I'm going to grab my pen tool. And I'm going to just start creating some blades of grass. And it doesn't matter what they look like. I'm going to make them pretty skinny. I'm going to zoom in on this one. So I want you to grab the pen tool, and I'm just drawing some grass. You can smooth out your edges by using the smooth tool. Like that. And no two blades of grass will be the same, but once you hold down, remember our trick, hold down Alt Option, click and drag. You can just kind of angle it wherever you want. I'm just going to create basically a bushel of grass here. Just different blades of grass. Holding down all options so I can line it up how I'd like. Okay, so go ahead and practice drawing some blades of grass. This might be pretty simple way to do the assignment, but remember, simple is what we're going for. So blades of grass was the first thing that I thought of. You think of affordable lawn care is usually people who are cutting the grass. And you kind of want to do different sizes for a more realistic effect. I'm just playing with placement at this point to see what would look good. All right. Not quite sure what to do with this long guy over here, but I'm going to try to bring it in, kind of give a little bit of separation here. So how are your blades of grass coming, Lisa? It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. In fact, the more different it looks, the better. I'll do some tall, some short. There we go. And I'm going to try to connect these. I'll zoom in here. Until the grass starts looking like I want it to. All right, so this is going to be my icon, my blades of grass. And you have two choices. You could do something similar to what I did over here. Let me zoom out for you. Like this. And I'll grab this bushel so you can see how I got that logo. So I'm going to move this down here so we can compare. With my blades of grass, I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool. I'm just going to grab my color. All right, there we go. So this looks more realistic. I'm going to enlarge it. Now I've got all these different working pieces, and when I'm happy with the overall results, what I can do is grab my Pathfinder tool, like this, highlight all the pieces, and I'm going to click on Unite, and it's going to merge all the pieces together. So if I'm happy with it, I can push it. It's no longer editable at this point, but this is about the look that I was going for. And now I'm going to give my client a few different options, okay? So I'm going to do this one, or I can draw a box. I will probably could do rounded rectangle. Hold down Shift, click and drag. And I'm going to hold down Option, click and drag so I can create a duplicate of it. This one I'm going to create in white with no stroke. I'm going to right click, bring to front, go to Arrange, bring to front. So I could do something like that. And then if you click on minus front, now all of a sudden, it brings that in. I can either do it off center, like that, minus front. There we go. Once you do that though, again, your you're not able to go and edit it or change it in any way. Okay, I think I like this, so we're going to stick with it. Minus front, there we go. I was trying to see what it would look like if I added more, but I think the one, remember, simple is best. Okay, so I've got two different icons here for my logo. 1 and 2. All right, and now all I need is text. So I'm going to grab the type tool. Are you following along, Lisa? Are there any questions? Am I going a little too fast? Okay, now we want to emphasize affordable, right? Sometimes within a company's names, within a company's name, you want to emphasize certain words. Lawn care is probably not the one thing you want to emphasize. I mean, you could, because that's the industry. Affordable would be a word you want to emphasize. But I usually scroll down. I told you about my awesome foolproof method. I just scroll down and I look at the type of font. I would definitely want to stay away from a font like this, because this screams like fifth grader to me. So we want something that's strong. You also want something. What are some adjectives that come to mind when you hear affordable lawn care, like or lawn care? I think outdoor. I think legible, cheap. Yep. I think a sans serif font would be appropriate here, like the one I chose. So I'm perusing, all different kinds of font options. I think I'll stick with Helvetica, maybe Arial, and I'll do Arial. Let me see if they have let's see if we've got, I don't want Arial rounded, I want regular. I could also do, let's see which font's this one. Oh yeah, I'm using one called Galaxy Polaris, but you could also do, what's a similar one? Avant-garde Gothic, that's another one. Extra light. So I'll probably I'll do the opposite here. So affordable. I could also do all caps. But I don't really like the R in affordable when I do all caps. So I might do just lowercase. If you go to type, change case, and then go to lowercase, it will change it all for you. Affordable. And I'm going to make this a darker green. Okay. And I'm going to up the size of the font. Probably won't go extra light on this. This might be too dark of a green for me. There we go. And then I'm going to want another separate text box for lawn care. This name is so long, affordable lawn care, that you couldn't do a horizontal layout by being a run-on sentence. So you need to break up the word. So they have to either be stacked in some way or abbreviated, like ALC. But usually when you do that, nobody knows what that company is. So unless you're like Pepsi or Coca-Cola, you have to be well known enough to be able to go and start abbreviating stuff or just using your logo. I guess Coca-Cola is a bad example. Even though we know it, they don't have a combination mark. So let's see, Mac or Apple. There you go. And I want to create some contrast. So one of the rules for creating logos is I said, how many colors max should you create a logo in? How many colors? I say a good rule of thumb is no more than 3. If you can do it in 2 colors, yeah, absolutely. If you can do it in 2 colors, that's probably best. So I'm going to do black here, and I'll let the green stand out. I know down here I'm using different greens, but I don't really like that now that I've walked away and come back to it, like we talked about. Here I'm going to do all caps. The way I do that is going to type, change case, and then uppercase. Okay. And I'm going to change my font size until I can get it even with the same name. I'm also going to change the weight of it. And I'm also going to go to window, and here's where we're going to play with typography a little bit. Window, type, it's all alphabetical, character. And when you pull this box up, you can adjust your tracking, which is the space between letters. You can adjust your leading, which is the height or the space between your words. So in this case, I want to adjust my tracking to be a little bit more. And I want to adjust the height of my text. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit so it's not so tall. And I'll probably pull in this green that we've been using and see what this looks like. I'm also going to go to type, create outlines. And by doing this, I'm now making it so it's vector based. I'm going to undo it though. Remember, always create a copy of it. And spread out my tracking a little bit more so I can shrink down the font. There we go. And I don't really like that, so I'm going to have to see another way. I don't like this font as it is. I don't like the R in the font. So I'm going to probably try to change it to something else. And again, you can just kind of play around and see what appeals to you. I'll use Avid here. Okay, we talked about details. I really want to make sure my letters line up. I'm going to go to type, create outlines. I'm going to make sure my letters line up here. I'm going to make sure my spacing is good. I could even shrink it down a little bit. Now my letters seem to kind of run into each other, so here's another option. I can use a line to create separation. I want it to be separated, but I also want it to still be uniform. And I'm going to lighten the point size of my line. So I could choose to do this all in black, and then maybe do the line in green. Like that. Cool thing with Illustrator is you have some options for the width of your line. You can do some different effects to it. But I like the straight across personally, so I'll just do uniform. I could choose to change the color, but I think I'm going to keep it like that. So here's my icon. I'm going to try to center it as best I can. I could do something cool like this and have it growing out of the letter D. I could use this icon if I wanted to, where it was, so I could do this one. I don't know, which one do you guys like? I'm supposed to get outside opinions, right? Do that. Could shrink it down a little bit. I don't like it at the end because then that's not the first thing you see. I do like it up here a lot, actually. Portable lawn care, that's kind of cool. Or you can use the icon. This one here. I'm going to create outlines on this one since I'm pleased with it. There we go. I don't know, which one do you prefer? Do you like this one, or do we like this, just the blades of grass? If it's just the blades of grass, we probably should keep it on the left side. You could also do a circle. Oops. Let's do a circle. Green. Make a copy. And I'm going to do the same thing we did with the rounded rectangle. I like the circle a lot too. I could choose to do it off center. Sometimes it's kind of cool to do something off center. Or my eye always gravitates to the center here. So we do something like that. And I'll grab my Pathfinder tool again, and I'll do a quick minus front. So now it's all connected. So there's my logo. Right like that. So if I zoom in real quick, you can see so you saw that there were different versions of it. So let me show you what the different versions might look like. So I'll do here. So, and then you can take these ideas if you want, come up with your own. I'm going to get rid of the icon. I'm going to use this one, blades of grass. Like this. This is another favorite. I could choose to use this text. I'm going to actually darken the green. I'll make this green. Make it all black. So there's some contrast to it. So that'll be my option number 2. type create outlines. Shrink it down. Right about here, size. You probably should put these on separate artboards as well. I'm just doing this obviously for speed and not so much the way it should be presented. I'll delete this. So then my next option will probably be no line at the bottom, and I'll use this icon. Or I could choose to put it over here. Half of logo design is just figuring out placement. Sometimes you have to just know or see what would look best. My goal here is I'm trying to get every edge to line up. So my icon needs to line up at the top of my A. The bottom of my icon needs to line up with the L. So here's another version. I could do another one and play with typography. I could do one with serif font. I haven't done that one yet. Do regular. I could try this version, this extreme version. It's just such a long word that you almost do need to stack it. So I'm going to stack it, but it doesn't look good when you have stacked lowercase. So one or the other or all of them need to be capitalized. So in this case, I'm going to make this the larger word. This is also an option for the client if they want to see how it's done. And I want some breathing room. I'm trying to get the edges of the E's to line up. Okay. This needs a little bit more. So now the edges of the E's are lined up. I can also play with the height of the text. I'm kind of shrinking it down because in this sense I don't necessarily want it to be the star of the show. I could make this the sans serif. Let's see if I can get it. That's not the font I want. I'm just gonna pick maybe. Let's see. Adjust the tracking on here a little bit. I'm just trying to create some contrast so that my client has some options. I don't want the words to look too similar. Do some create outlines here. And notice how I'm not doing anything too fancy. I'm not using any cursive or scripted fonts because lawn care seems more of a masculine, not saying girls can't cut grass, but it's more of a masculine profession. So you're trying to appeal to more of the professional side, less female side. At least that's my opinion. That's kind of how I view it. So I'm trying to make sure that the fonts I choose, the colors I choose, that they're masculine in some way. And I'm trying to give some spacing between this. I'm going to grab my icon again. could shrink it down. No, I don't really like that. I could have it going in the center of lawn care. And if I were to do that, I'd need to adjust some things. So I need to bring this over and this over. Make this icon nice and big. There's another option, okay? And I'm going to hold down Shift and proportionately try to scale it up a little bit. Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. So let me zoom back so you get the idea of what I'm trying to go for here. When I say different versions, I just basically came up with two different concepts, and I'm trying to create something that could be interchangeable. All right, Lisa wants to show me, so I'm going to go ahead and stop share. Go ahead, Lisa. Go for it. Awesome. I love it. Very, very good. I like your icon a lot. So did you do that with the pen tool, Lisa? Great job. Okay, so it looks like you've got your blades of grass. I like the affordable lawn care. My first thought with the top logo is I love the contrasted color. You've got the black words and then the green. Make sure the blades of grass and the green text match the same coloring. But I like that a lot. And I like how you made lawn care a lot smaller. Here's something that I didn't think about. Maybe if I wouldn't center those two words, if lawn care is going to be that small, you could probably, if you're going to make it that small, I'd either adjust the tracking so that it begins and ends with affordable, or right justify it. That could be an option, or left justify it so that at least one of the sides lies flush with affordable. Does that make sense? So, well, not on that logo, I'm sorry, the top logo. And I see that your smart guides are on, so excellent job. So yeah, just make it so either side lies flush with the word affordable. That way you can see it. And then if you're gonna do that, I make sure that your line going across starts at affordable and ends at affordable. Make sure it all starts and ends at the same place. And then you could bring your blades of grass towards the bottom there by lawn care to kind of fill in that gap. You can make it a little smaller, but I love that. That's some good stuff there. And then I like the icon that you showed there. I probably wouldn't do just a stroke on affordable. Yeah, I'd probably fill it in, because with the logo, it has to be legible. It's crucial that it's legible. So I just pick a color. It can be black, whatever you want. But I do like how you've done two different versions there. I think that's absolutely wonderful. And I didn't think about using italics on this, so that's kind of cool to create some contrast. So very, very well done. And you did that really fast. Good job. Okay, so I'm impressed. So again, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, but this is kind of a general idea. I'm trying to think if there's another, oh yeah, something else we could do with this if you want a different option. Is I'll get rid of this one here, move it over. Your blades of grass doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to make sure that if you are going to do this, make sure that you merge them. So get your Pathfinder tool. The way you find it is go to Window, Pathfinder, and it pulls it up. If you click on the very first icon under the shape modes, it's the Unite button. It will unite all your little blades of grass into one vector. It won't be editable at that point as far as they won't be individual anymore, but it'll give it a more cohesive piece, and it will be less annoying than working with 10 different blades of grass instead of just one grass patch. All right, so another option that you can do, let's see. Okay, another option we can do is I'm going to get my type tool, type out. I'm going to use Minion Pro on this one. Whoops. And I don't want to bold it. I want to do just a regular. Okay, and I'm going to give us a different color. I'm going to use my rule and do 2 colors, extremely professional. I'll do 3 colors. That's about the max I'd like to see you guys use. Really try to hone it into 2 if you can. The reason why is that, and you're probably wondering why, is that students or graphic designers who are just starting out, they use color as a crutch. So they think the more colorful it is and the more out there it is with color, that it kind of distracts from the fact that they're inexperienced a little bit. And it winds up really cheapening the logo look. Okay, cool, Lisa, thanks. Oh, you put a glow on the first icon. Got it. Okay, remember, we probably want to not too many effects on the logo. We want to just keep it as simple as possible. But I think that's why it was showing on the screen. But awesome job. Thanks for keeping the colors the same. That really creates uniformity. I'm going to do this one here. I'm going to grab this icon. I'll put this one over here. And I'm going to give this, you can even do a gradient. So I'll see if I can find a gradient swatch in my swatches. And if not, I probably won't do a gradient. I'll stick with this green here. I like this green. You could do brown too, because brown is very earthy. Green is eco. Remember, we learned the meanings. And I'm going to change the case to uppercase. I'm going to have to zoom in. Don't be afraid to zoom in for these. And I'm going to lower the size here. Probably even smaller. And by making it smaller, I'm going to adjust the tracking so that they end at the same point. I want the words to begin and end very flush, okay? This is the difference between a quality layout and one that was rushed. You really want to be able to have everything line up. Okay, I'm trying to get my E's to line up. I'm trying to get it all to line up with the line that I've created as a divider. So here we go. Now this is one with 3 colors. Can't say it's my favorite because there's so much going on. Remember, your icon doesn't have to be very big either. It just needs to be as tall as your words. I'm just going to get it to line up with this A right here. So there's another option. All right. Okay, so hopefully this gives you some food for thought if you were to do the affordable lawn care. For sake of time, we'll go ahead and move on to a different genre or a different industry. Let's see. We can do the Laughing Giraffe tomorrow. Let's do Megan Wren, okay, the jewelry store. You can get away with some simple logos. In fact, you can even get away with using triangles a lot in diamond I'm sorry, in jewelry logos. So you can do a play on diamonds, and I wanted to show you a few options here. You do something like this, where the M serif is part of the diamond. You see that a lot. Zales uses the token, flip the triangle under the A there. So I'll show you how to get that effect. That one's pretty simple. The font I'm using is Futura. So let me find a blank spot over here. And type in the name, Megan Wren. Keep it all caps. Change my font to Futura. Let's see. And I want light. Oh no, I want book. I want it to be pretty legible. So as you can see, this A has this line going across, right? Because it's an A. So I don't want to use the true A. In fact, I'm going to use the V, an upside down V for the A. So I will just put a space there as the placeholder. Okay, and then I'm going to grab text, type in V, same font, same size, go to type, create outlines. Put it right here. I'm going to hold down Alt Option, click and drag, and using my smart guides, I'm going to line it up so I make sure the spacing is extremely even, okay? So as you can see, I used upside down V's instead of my A's. Now this is a pretty, I could end it here, and this would actually be pretty effective, kind of cool. Thanks, Lisa, for joining. Appreciate you coming. This is actually a pretty cool concept, and it can be done pretty simply. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I recently did something like this for a jewelry store where you kind of do a play on the A's. You don't want to, you can't really copy Zales exactly. You could add little subtle details to it. And by changing the typography slightly, you give it a very custom look. So you could do something like that. Or grab the triangles. This is what Zales does. Whoops. To get a triangle, let me show you this. To get a triangle, you only have these options. So you want to pick your star tool or your polygon tool. Star tool, I click once on the canvas, give it 3 points, hit OK, and it will create my triangle. So I just rotate the triangle, hold down Shift when you get it to flip, like that. Hold down Alt Option, and line it up. And you really want these to line up, so you want to make sure they're centers. Are lined up. This could stand to go up. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so even just, again, changing 2 letters in the word gives it this really custom look. I'm going to also, for contrast, and you always want there to be some slight contrast so that nothing, it doesn't, you want it to flow, but you don't want it to, you want something to stand out, right? So I've typed it, I found a serif font, which I'm going to use. And I just adjusted the tracking a little bit. So I'm going to decrease my font here. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to highlight this, create outlines, type, create outlines. I'm going to increase it. The idea here is what, guys? Whoops. Before you do that, before you move your font, make sure you have those little accents on the A grouped. Everything's grouped. That way when you enlarge it, they enlarge with it. And I'm just going to kind of stretch it here. Now, a jewelry store is much different than the industry of lawn care or landscaping. You want to make sure you have something classy. Usually retail jewelry stores are perceived as kind of like the color purple. It's something to, what's the word I want to use? It's something to be to achieve. You want to be able to, if you're a customer, you want to be able to have jewelry. It's status. It's all about, it basically is social status. So you want to have something refined. Usually the wealthy own jewelry or shop for it. And so you want to be able to appeal to that upper class target audience. So you want something very clean, very refined, something that is different and piques interest. So we want to have some contrast there. So the two fonts are is going to act as my contrast element, and my sans serif and serif fonts are also going to act as the complementary contrast elements. And then now it's all up to you as far as an icon. Now here's a quick way to do a diamond. You can use, you can grab that triangle, do a copy paste, upside down there. Now you don't have to draw a true diamond. I mean, you could end here. Zoom in a little bit more and get that centered. So this could be it. This could be your logo. Okay. If you're not satisfied, we could add a little bit more. We could do a true diamond. So the way that I'm going to create my diamond is I'm going to get really, really close to it. Make sure my edges line flush with my diamond. I'm going to kind of fatten the bottom of my triangle a little bit. I'm going to merge the two shapes. I'm going to take a rectangle here, angle it. I'm going to do a rectangle. I'm going to make that white, take off the stroke. And by selecting these, I'm going to copy it over. Just trying to get it lined up as best as possible. But to be very careful, because if you don't line it up, you won't have even sides. You want the point to be even. There we go. Okay, highlight both items. Click unite. Oh, it's not unite, I'm sorry. Minus front. So now I've created my diamond. There's different ways you can create a diamond. I can, in there, I can give it some facets by adding some lines. I'm going to go across here. I'm not going to go all the way through. Do a 0.5 on that, and I'm going to do a white stroke so we can see it. Let's do 0.25, and I'm going to change the variable width so it gives it a cool effect. Can even do something like that if I liked it. Anyways, you can add little subtle pieces to it to give it some uniqueness. There we go. And I want to make sure these angles are pretty well centered. So just by adding some subtle detail to your diamond, you can create something pretty cool. Here's what I did. I did like a crisscross. You can do this two ways. You can use lines or you can use triangle shapes. I will do this one really quick. Hold down Shift as you draw it. For a minute, it'll look like chaos. I'm holding down Shift, trying to get the lines to meet in the same place. Okay. Only select the stroke lines that you created. Give it the same width point. Okay, so there's some ways to create the diamond. I think this is kind of neat. Very simple. I don't want a whole lot of detail. Remember, not a whole lot of detail needs to be in these logos. Something very simple. And I could give it some color. So we talked about purple. Purple is an actual, it's a color that means royalty. Purple is actually a very sought after color. Now I wouldn't go two-tone on a jewelry logo. In fact, I'd probably try to stick, I guess you could go two-tone. You could try purple. Another color I really like is this blue teal. Some refer to it as robin's egg blue. That's kind of cool. But again, we don't want to go crazy with color, so we're going to keep everything uniform. Okay. I'll even make the diamond the same color. That looks nice. I like that. So this is one option you could do. I'll blow it up so you can see it in like a larger scale, larger form. I didn't do the same diamonds I did before, but this gives you an idea. And it doesn't have to be a very fancy logo at all to be effective. You just want something simple. Here's another way to create a jewelry logo if you wanted another option. Here's option 1. This will be option 2. Get rid of, you know what, I'll keep the diamond. Okay, move it over here. I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool. Give it this color. No stroke on that. I'll hold down Alt Option, click and drag. And I'm gonna do, I'll make this white so that I can see what I'm doing. But I'm trying to create the effect of a ring. And depending on how white you want it to be, that looks about right. Highlight them both. Go to your Pathfinder tool again. So Window, you want to scroll to Pathfinder and click Unite. Oops, I'm sorry, minus front. All right, so now you're given this really cool semicircle shape that you can do something with. And I can use this diamond. I'm just going to rotate it. Just like that. Kind of neat. Okay, and then I'm going to highlight, group them both. Now I can choose to arch it. What I like about this is that it kind of leads the eye. It tells the eye to look at the N or the name Megan, and then it leads it down to jewelry store. So it guides the eye. You'll kind of hear that technique referred to a lot throughout logo design is you want to direct the eye to see what you want it to see. This is a cool way to do that. Neat effect. Kind of bridges the gap a little bit. Another way you can do that is kind of highlight the word Megan, but then you have a gap here, and I don't like that gap, so I'm gonna go back there. So I like that. That's also another option you could do. Here's option number 3. Using that same design concept. Whoa. Sorry. Using that same design concept, take it, and for the icon, I'm going to grab an ellipse, draw a circle. I'm going to give it that cool color. Then I'm going to grab this and ungroup it. For my diamond, I'm going to do let's see here. See if it'll let me minus the front. No? It won't let me do that. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to make this white, this ring white. And I'm going to drag it in here. Bring to that. Group. So I'm going to keep these lines. So I could do something like this. I could even give this a gradient to give it some dimension. Sometimes gradient's nice to give it more of a 2D look. Oops. And I want to this color. But you know what, I think I'm just going to leave it at this for sake of time. So I'll scroll it down, scale it down. What's nice is there's a nice big gap here between Meg and Ren. So I'm going to ungroup. And if I wanted to, I could even fit this icon right down in here. Scoot it in. Bring that out. So here's another option. So hopefully this gives you guys something to think about as you're doing your logo designs. We'll go over some more tomorrow. I'll do some other concepts for you. I'm just trying to pick some simple, quick layouts that you could do at home, and then you could upload to the discussion and share with the class. If you guys have any questions as you're doing this, please feel free to email me. And good luck, and we will see you guys tomorrow.